Okay. So thanks for all coming to my talk. I'm talking about teaching and practicing vocabulary through movement in the online classroom. There is some repetition from other talks that happened today, so I'm sorry if you're hearing the same things again, but it is a collection of my favourite activities that I have, as always in EFL, effectively borrowed from other people and use them in my online classroom. So why do we include movement in the online classroom? I cannot see you, so I'm going to trust that you are going to join in with me today. So please stand up if you think that movement and thinking are connected skills. And sit down again. And stand up if you think that movement in lessons can strengthen and reinforce learning. And sit down and stand up if you think that movement in lessons can improve memorization of language and language retrieval. And sit down and stand up if you think movement in lessons can increase learner motivation and class morale. And sit down. So these are all statements that I agree with. I didn't stand up and sit down because I didn't want to keep moving my camera. But I took these ideas from James Egerton's webinar on movement in the classroom. It's a really good webinar. I recommend that you watch it and also read the book Teaching with the Brain in Mind, which is where some of these ideas came from. So the first idea for today is physical responses. So encouraging your students to stand up and sit down to agree or disagree with you, yes or no. You could do a human, tick or cross. Particularly good for those starters reading exercises where they have to read and say yes or no, or tick and cross the box. My next idea is a notebook slap, which I actually got from Sandy. So students love a board slap, but we definitely should not encourage them to hit the computer because we cannot afford to keep replacing the computers. So if they draw or write in their notebook, then they can slap that instead. Slightly difficult to monitor, but if you put the right answer on the screen, then it's fairly easy for them to, for you to see whether they've got it correct or not, usually through a facial expression or a bit of a groan if they've got it incorrect. Another idea is run and touch. So as James Monday showed us earlier, we can make our own flashcards and then put them in various points of the room. So everybody could put a cat on their left, a dog on their right, and a fish behind them. And when you say fish, they have to run to touch the fish, for example. If everybody has them in the same place, it's really easy for you as the teacher to see if they've got it correct or not. Another way of running and touching could be saying, touch something red, touch something blue, particularly good for the younger, lower level learners in our classrooms. Of course, the classic charades, depending on how you say it, Simon Says, and miming games all work just as well online as they do in the physical classroom. Another variety on Simon Says, which I've seen many times before, is using the word please instead of Simon Says to encourage politeness with young learners. And with the miming games, it can be extended as long as you like, in a sort of a I say and you do kind of way. So if you don't mind, I'd like you to join in with me. So show me a monster. Show me a happy monster. Show me an ugly happy monster. Show me an ugly happy monster eating ice cream, etc., etc. Another thing you can do is encourage them to stand up for drilling. I mean also support drilling in general, but physically stand up when you do drilling activities. This is something that I do in my face-to-face classroom. So for my groups, it's a routine, which is really important in the online classroom because there are so many unfamiliar things at the moment. So keeping those routines as much as you can is a really good way to help them feel familiar in this unfamiliar situation. It's also a really easy way to just get them to stand up and then sit down and stand up and sit down without just telling them to stand up for the sake of it. Another thing you could do is act out the song, story, or chant And so you could pre-teach the key vocabulary from your story, add an action to these words, and then as you tell the story, sing the song or do the chant, the students do the actions with you, either receptively as they're listening, or once they're more confident with the song, story or chant, they can say and do at the same time. This is an idea that I got from Molly Leclerc in IH Bydgoszcz, and one that I particularly like. So YMCA spellings. We all know the song, but this is something that you can use, particularly for the Cambridge YLE exams, where they have to listen and spell a word, listening for the correct letters. So if I said, how do you spell cat? Hopefully you and your students would go C-A-T, or whatever actions you have practiced with your alphabet. My next idea is a particularly common one in the online classroom, is a scavenger hunt. So you describe an object, for example, something that you put on your toothbrush, and hopefully they bring back a tube of toothpaste. Alternatively, for lower levels, you could just say the object and they bring it to show you. But even lower levels who are simply practicing colours, you could say, bring me something red, bring me something blue. Another idea that has become very popular in the online classroom is to find a secret object. So they find an object, it's really important that they don't show you on the camera, and then they describe it, either whole class or small groups, and the other students have to guess what it is. An alternative to this is doing a close-up of the object if they are unable or perhaps too low level to do a description. So you do a very close-up image on the camera, as I have. And what is it? It is my keys. They are my keys. Wow, okay. An alternative would be what's in the cupboard. So you could send them to the food cupboard, the toy cupboard or toy box or wardrobe, and ask them what is inside, which is really good for practicing those lexical sets of food, clothes and toys. If you pre-arrange for your students to be on a mobile, then you can get them to give you a house, room or garden tour. This does come with a bit of a pre-warning that you've got to be wary of the privacy of the families of your students. Not all of them might want to be on the camera, and all of them might feel comfortable. So please, bear that in mind when you arrange this activity. But if they're on a mobile or tablet, they can take it and show each other what they can see, kind of real estate mode. My next idea is actually from Lucy, and it is about engaging the 5 senses. So this is something that I would like all of you to join in with if possible. So you could ask them to go to a different room of the house and ask them what they can see, smell, touch, taste, or hear. So in the chat box, I would like you to go to your kitchen and tell me what you can smell. Very nice. Great. Okay. So only because of time, we're going to move on really quickly. I'm sorry. My next idea is from Ruth, one of my colleagues from IH Bydgoszcz, and it is a pet safari. My young learners loved this activity when we did it. So you get them on full safari mode, and they have to follow their pets around the house and comment on everything that they are doing. It's really great for practicing those action verbs and also the present continuous, and any kind of pet, animal, household vocabulary. If they don't have a pet, so for example, I don't, they could do this with a soft toy. So for example, my pet wombat is reading. An alternative, if you don't want to get animals involved, is to go on a family spy mission. So encourage your students to sneak around the house very quietly and tell you what their family are doing. Like this. Okay, which brings me to my final idea, my penultimate idea, sorry. So every good explorer or every good spy needs a pair of binoculars. This was extremely easy and cheap for me to make, 2 toilet rolls and a glue stick. And really proves the point that junk modelling is really easy for students to do. It's completely accessible because I mean, I have a glue stick. I'm a teacher, of course I do. I think most families do. And having these, you know, rubbish items that would normally be thrown out is basically a free way for them to do crafts. If you wanted to do proper crafts, you could also do this, or you could even take advantage of them being at home and having access to a kitchen, which again I did with my class, and they loved it. And we baked. So going through the vocabulary for the ingredients and also the imperatives and verbs for the recipe itself. I would just make sure that your materials list or ingredients list is inexpensive and accessible, not inaccessible, because it is a crisis. You don't know what people's finances are like at the best of times, and it's probably even worse now. So just be wary of that if you are going to do this at home. My final activity for the day, I'm very aware that I've gone through this very quickly, is to follow an online workout video together. And I think you'll be pleased to hear that I'm not going to ask you to do this one at home. So my students particularly love the Smile and Learn yoga videos. This is something that we use as a brain break in the face-to-face classroom, and also something that I've carried online. So I share the video with them and they follow along. I particularly like these ones because they're only 5 minutes long, and also the yoga poses are compared to different animals. So you practice the basic animal vocabulary and also the parts of the body vocabulary as well, which is really nice. So a few resources for you. There are 3 blog posts here which I really recommend reading about movement in the online classroom. The link to the Smile and Learn videos, these are also available on YouTube. And a link to well, it's not a link, it's what you search for, a Facebook group called the Active English Inner Circle. It is called Active English. It's not actually about movement, it's about teaching. It's a whole community of VYL and YL teachers that I've been a part of for just over a year now, and I found it really useful, and they share ideas about educating the whole child, both, I mean, face-to-face and now online as well. So now I'm going to actually breathe. Thank you very much for watching my talk, and if you have any questions, I will stick around and answer them in the Q&A box.
Take a deep breath, Shannon. Brilliant, thank you very much. Could you do me two favour? Could you just go back to your last slide so people can see the links again? Your previous slide, sorry, that makes sense, did it? Yeah, that's it. Fabulous. Lydia, we'll try and get them there, but if you just take a screenshot, then you've got the links to go to. Do you have the links handy, Shannon, by any chance?
Yeah, these are all hyperlinked in the PowerPoint, so I can put the links in the Q&A box.
That would be perfect. There are some people that it makes it easier so they don't make any mistakes. I don't think there are any questions for you at the moment. Okay,
that makes my life easier.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that you should have had 2 references to Sandy's blog in there, though. Really, I mean. But apart from that, thank you so much for doing it. Sandy, you know I don't mean it. So thank you very much. Yeah, the links will go in there very shortly. Give Shannon time to catch her breath and then find the slides, and she'll put the links in there. But super, thank you so much for a really good talk, and for making me hungry, because I'm now thinking about the smells in my kitchen. I'm going to stop the recording and ask you to